I'm Carol Ann, and I'm going to walk you through a do-it-yourself PPE medical isolation gown. It's a lot of words, but we're going to make it work. Hopefully by now you have gotten some instructions that are long and wordy and going to tell you exactly what to do. But let's walk it through. I'll make it a little bit easier. So we're going to start with Christmas wrapping paper. And it works great. This particular kind has inches marked off on it. It works super, super great. We're gonna need 44 inches wide and 57 inches long. My paper is only 40, so I had to splice a little bit. To show you how I did it, I used two different papers. So we need to cut our fabric, which has to be at least 44 inches wide and 57 inches long, or a sheet. A sheet is what I chose to use. I laid my sheet out and made it this long. On my paper, I've marked my center fold, 22 inches this way, 57 inches long. Once you've cut your paper, you take your pattern and fold it the other way, widthwise. Okay, I have cut my fabric 57 inches long, 44 inches wide. This is just a sheet. Now, on your pattern, let's get that flat. Okay, I've got my handy dandy notes. Okay. On the fold of your pattern, you want to mark 3 inches down, maybe? Well, oh, wait, it's over here. Hang on. 3 inches down and 4.5 inches across here. This is going to be cut and turned into your neck. What I'm going to use, pardon me again, is a plate. And I placed my plate on my marks. 4.5 inches across, 3 inches down. Draw a line, and you've got a perfect neck print. Excellent. Now, what we're going to do next is fold half of our pattern over, sides to sides, covering up your neck piece, and you're going to cut an inch out, or mark an inch out. Let's see, what were my, and 11 inches down to this mark, but you're not cutting out there. That's just where you end. You're making an armhole, and you're gonna angle it up and a curve to that 1 inch mark. When you open it up, you have a neck hole for the center, and ultimately you have 2 armholes right there. So that's all the real marking you have to do. Yes. Now, what I have done, let's get rid of this pattern paper, because it's going to go on top when you mark your fabric. Now, we have your fabric, 44 inches down now, because that's how long it's going to be, and it's going to be 57 inches around. That way it will fit any kind of personnel that is going to come in to the room. Now, the only marks I've done, I went ahead and marked this on my fabric with a Sharpie, because I'm going to cut off the Sharpie part, and it's just a whole lot easier than dealing with tracing pins and that kind of thing. This way we got it going there. Now, I use a rotary cutter, You're going to cut your neck hole out. Perfect. Now you're cutting both armholes out for the right arm and the left arm at the same time because your fabric is folded in half. Perfect. Now let's get that in there. In addition to the body of the gown, we also obviously have to have a sleeve. So with another part of your pattern, we have cut out a sleeve. "24 inches long, 24 inches wide, and 11 inches. This is going to be your wrist of your sleeve. This is going to be your shoulder. Now, a shoulder when it goes in has to have a little itty bitty bit of a curve. We cut out that 1-inch notch. So we're going to cut an inch down on this corner. And this we're just going to eyeball. I have it marked with a little bit of a line. We're going to give it just a little bit of a curve. There you go. Now on both sides of your pattern, you've got a bit of a curve. Not a lot, just a little. If you are a perfectionist, don't be. These are just PPE gowns that are going to go on for a few minutes. As soon as someone walks into a room, a doctor, a nurse, a CNA, whoever is going to be wearing them, they're going to come straight off. They don't have to look pretty. If you want to make them pretty, you go, girl. So I have cut my sleeves. Obviously, you have to cut 2 of them. Now, let's put our curve on this one. I've already drawn it on. You might hear the dog in the background. He's not being tortured. He's just in doggy jail. Let's cut this little curve in here. Perfect. Now we've got a curve there. So we have 2 pieces. We have the gown and we have the sleeve. You then end up with extra fabric. Along the bottom of most sheets, and I'm using a sheet, is the edge that's turned under and hemmed. I trimmed that off, and we're going to use that for something else a little bit later. I also trimmed off the side that was a little hem, and we're going to use that a little bit later. These pieces I'll use to make masks with, or line masks. It's kind of boring. I kind of like fun masks. So this one is lined with sheeting from another project. So now let's get our sleeve in. This is what it's going to look like when you've got your sleeve cut out. Let's do just one layer. Isn't this fun? Now, yeah. The center seam here is going to the bottom center here. So, what we're going to do is do corner to corner right here. Oh, there are my pins. Now, I'm not much of a pinner. I like to pin 4 maybe, but you're pinning so that your right sides of your fabric are together. Not that there are right and wrong sides of sheets, unless you have a print. And then we've got a whole nother series. If you have a print, Remember, these are going to go on men and women. And we don't want those doctors to look completely ridiculous, or the CNAs, or whomever is in there. Now, in order to get it on the other side, we have to kind of fold it over and pin this way. In the drawing, you'll see that it looks kind of weird. And I had to look at it a couple of times to figure out what in the heck they were doing, because this goes against the way most people sew. This is going to have a seam along the top. Most people have a seam in the underarm. This one's going along the top, so don't try to put it in backwards, or it will make sewing the last final stage a whole lot harder. Apparently I didn't measure real well, and one side's a little longer than the other, but that's okay. Shh, don't tell. This one fits great. Now, what we're going to have is a seam that goes this way, and the sleeve will come in. Perfect, like that. Great. Now, do the other side, and then we're going to talk about putting the neck in. Okay, let's see here. The neck, I used an edge that I cut off, and I marked it in the middle. It wasn't quite long enough, so I sewed it together in the middle and doubled up. What we're going to do here is put your center on the neck, and this is like a bias tape. It's going to fold over and make the edge of the neck more comfortable for whomever is going to wear it, and keep your fabric from fraying when it's washed. These are going to be washed a lot, and they're going to be washed in hot water. That's the reason sheet fabric is so good, because it's designed, it's got a little bit of polyester in it usually, unless they're really good sheets. Don't use your really good sheets. Use something that doesn't need to be ironed, because I assure you that is not going to happen. And these I found in the linen closet, and I'm pretty sure they were mine when I was a kid, maybe my brother's. So they're really super soft and super clean. I washed them in bleach, and they did not fade. They didn't discolor. Those are the kind of things we need, because things are going to be washed in bleach. So I've pinned half of my neck with the bias, and I'm going to ultimately zigzag that on. So let's get my sewing machine out, and we'll see if we can make this look super great. Now, I've got my sleeve that's pinned in. I am using black thread on one side and white thread on the other side, primarily so you can see what I'm doing. I am using 3/8. Oh, it's always most helpful if your sewing machine's threaded. I don't know what happened there, but it wasn't threaded. So let's do that super, super fast. Thread. I had to buy a new sewing machine last week because my other one, I've made so many masks and so many costumes. That's what I really do. That's my main job, making costumes. So it pooped out on me. Now I I have a new sewing machine. And wow, it's so super great. Okay, let's try again. Zoop, zoop, zoop. Okay, now I'm at the bottom of the sleeve. You want to make sure nothing's all wadded up under there because, you know, this isn't the way you traditionally do a sleeve. It's kind of a, you kind of have to wiggle it a little bit. I still have a little bit of bump under there. There we go. I'm going to go to that point. I'm going to back up and reinforce it just a little bit, because that's going to be an area of tension. Now we'll turn and go up the other side. But because there's so much fabric right there, you got to make sure it's all nice and flat so you don't have any, what my grandma would call, you don't want it to booger up. She was a very southern lady. Let's see here. Ah, stop. There we go. All right, and we're sewing on the outside of those black lines. We're sewing with black thread. And that's primarily so you can see what I'm doing. And I know many of you are saying, oh my gosh, she is a terrible seamstress. Well, my good friends know that I am not a seamstress. I am a wingstress. And sometimes not being a seamstress works in our favor because we don't worry too much about the little stuff. Now, what I have now is we're going to zoop up the sleeves from one sleeve from the end to the shoulder to the neck. But there is a trick. In order for these workers to be able to get this sleeve on and stay inside their gloves, they have asked, let's see, let's pull my board up here, for a 2-inch hole. So I'm going to measure 2 inches from the edge of the seam to right here. We'll put a pin there. This is going to be our hem. Then we're going to go up 2 more inches to right here, and we're going to leave that open. And that way, when they put this sleeve on, their thumb goes through this little hole and it holds it down so that when they put gloves on, it's holding the sleeve down. So we're going to sew 2 inches and then leave a hole. Okay, let's see. Let's knot our fabric real well. And now this is also a place that is going to need a little bit of extra stitch just because it's going to get pulled quite a bit. So now we're going to leave our hole, move up to that next pin, which is 2 inches away. Go back again. There, perfect. And we're going to extend on up. Oh, this new sewing machine, I just love that it automatically backs up on me. We're going to head on up to that shoulder seam. Zoop on up. Okay, now we're at the neck. We don't really need to knot it there. I mean, we're at the shoulder, not the neck. But if we knot it there, it's just a good place to give it a little more reinforcement. I'm gonna keep on going up. This is a really super duper wide shoulder seam. And it's super duper wide because you're going to have personnel putting this on over their clothes. And it could be turnout gear, it could be scrubs, you just never know. Okay, here is my neck seam, right? We've cut that out. This is gonna be the back of the gown. That's not right. We're going to fold it over. We're going to sew to the edge. And knot it. And cut it. This is my favorite part. And it cuts on the bottom. Okay. Now, oh, let's take my pins off. Now, we've got our little hole for a thumb right here. We'll snip those threads. One side is white, one side is black for me. Okay, now I've gone through and I've sewn both sides of the sleeve. Okay, let's pull it back out again. I pulled it, put it in. Whoop, there we go. So our sleeve is attached here. Our shoulder is attached here, and we've got our leftover piece here, which when I was cutting, I inadvertently cut off. So I sewed it back on. It's not a big deal. Now, we started pinning our neck on already. What we're gonna do now is finish pinning the bias tape or the edging of the sheet, or whatever it is you used, to, we're still going around the front of the neck of the gown. We're going to get to our seam right there where the shoulder seam comes in. And now you got a little jig you got to do to get around that corner. And again, this is where if you're a perfectionist, good luck. If you're okay with winging it, that's the best way to do it. Don't get uncomfortable with a little bit of bend in your fabric or your bias tape. And what I've done is the way I cut the sheet, I made sure that the open back of the sheet, when I cut it, was along the edge of the sheet that was already hemmed. So I'm using their hem instead of having to go back and re-hem something. It's just a little bit of work smarter, not harder. Okay, I've done all the way around to both sides of the neck. So let's zigzag this on. And I'm kind of using a small, tight zigzag. We'll zig and we'll zig and we'll zig. Okay, we're going to get to that corner. You want to make sure that your fabric underneath is not boogered up. Now this zigzag you're seeing right here is where I put two pieces together of this binding that I cut off at the edge of the sheet. And I'm zigzagging because it is not a finished edge. So in order to make it a little bit more durable in the mass number of washes that it will take Zigzag should keep any fraying down to a minimal. There we go. Back at that corner. Let's see, get right there to the seam. And that's your shoulder seam. That's where you're going to have to kind of wiggle it around. And try not to get too much of your fabric. Now, this leftover part is what you're going to use as your tie at the neck. So, I didn't on the other end yet, but go back and let's zigzag that shut. There again, it lets us have a little bit more stability, and it keeps the fraying to a minimum. And I didn't want to start on the other end, just for the sake of time. But we're going to go back and make sure both ends are done. All right, here comes my favorite part. Listen for the snip. And snip. And that will give me a nice pretty edge on my ties. Let's go ahead and just zip this thing through real quick. Doesn't take long, but I did make my stitch for this necktie part just a smidgen wider. All right. Perfect. Now, okay, what we have now is a sleeve, a neck, a back, another sleeve, a neck, and a back. Now, let's flip this sleeve. Oh, let me turn the wrong side out again so we keep the black thread on the outside. Okay, we allowed 2 inches in front of the thumb hole there. So let's turn it under and go flip. If you want to measure, I'm measuring about 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch, but I want the hole to have a little bit of room at the bottom of the sleeve before you get to the hole. So now we'll put a pin or 2 in there. I'm the worst. I don't love to put pins in things. I don't know why. I feel like it wastes my time sometimes. But if we're going to do it right, and they say I need to do it right, then we'll flip it right back out front. Take that off. Gosh, that's the first time I've even taken put that piece off. Will this fit? No, it doesn't fit, darn it. Okay, it's all right. We got this. We're gonna use our handy dandy guide. Use your lines on the side of the machine. And we're gonna zigzag. Zigzag your edges. We're turning that hem under on the back side. Now, you might have a little bit of excess fabric because it was a little bit wider where we turned it under. If you want, you could make a casing and run some elastic through it. because that's essentially what we're doing, is making the casing. And if you run elastic through it, then that's just a little bit better way for it to stay on the wrist. And if it cinches up a little bit, then you won't see any of this extra fabric, because we're getting ready to cover up. Ah! There we go. We're just kind of sewing gathers into it. Perfect. Then we've got a sleeve that's hemmed. No excess fabric on the inside to fray when we are washing it. And now I don't think we need, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's put a little zigzag over the edges. You know, would have been a whole lot easier to do before we sewed it down. On the next sleeve, let's do it the right way. Let's just look at the next sleeve. Hang on. Don't go anywhere. Let's flip this thing out. Okay, here's our piece that we are going to pin it open. You know how you kind of figure things out as you're going along? Obviously, I'm figuring this little teeny tiny part out as I'm going along. That's what this is. Now you're going to have to wiggle it under there. Pull that out. Perfect. Now, let's sew that seam on the inside down so that as you put your thumb in the hole, it's okay. Now let's turn it this way. We'll go down the other side. Great. Perfect. Thanks for helping me figure that out. Now this side, you've got a thumb hole. And you know, the zigzag on the outside is kind of cool because they know where to put their thumb in now. We'll fold this in and another flip. Great. Fold this one in and another flip. Great. Okay. Now we'll zigzag around at that 5/8 line again. Don't forget, you might get a few little wrinkles and gathers in here. It's okay. It's going to be down in a glove anyway. know if you can hear it, but my puppy in the back wants out of jail. But he doesn't behave very well, so he's got to stay in jail while I'm working. Perfect. Okay, now we have a sleeve with a thumb hole. We have a neck. We have shoulders. We have backs that were already hemmed because we worked smarter and not harder. Now, one last thing. We are going to fold it in the middle at the neck. So let's see if we can get this in a straight line. There. Okay. We're going to measure down 15 inches from the neck. Now, I have 10 inches because I'm using a short ruler, and I have 5 inches. Now, what that is we are going to we're going to tack another little piece of bias tape, which I cut off of the bottom of the sheet also. And this needs to be, oh golly, 50 some odd inches around so that it can go around. Let's see here. Let me look at my notes. We'll see exactly how big around that needs to be. Well, I don't know. No, it needs to be 90 inches around. That's what it is, 90 inches long, so that it can go around a waist and tie easily in the back. The neck one was about 50 inches around. And all those exact measurements are in your instructions. And I'm just tacking it down in the front, but I'm going to tack it in 3 different spots. Okay, right now we're in the center. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't hear it cut. There we go. Let's scooch over this way a smidge. Perfect. And we'll go this side. Let's see here. About there. How about that? And back up and back down. Perfect. Okay, let's trim off these ends. Okay, now for the crowning moment, let's model this thing. It's going to be easy to put on. You got your thumb in the thumb hole on both sides. Now, let's hope that little itty bitty tiny women don't need to wear this or don't mind looking a little bit overwhelmed by their PPE. I believe that everyone wearing this is going to be happy that they have PPE at all. Okay, got it tied in the back, tied around the waist, and it's big enough in the back that you can overlap. Ah, wait, my sleeves. And ideally, someone will be tying this for you. Ta-da! And you have your PPE, FYI, DIY. You got it, girlfriend. Make your PPE. And that's all I got for you today. Have a super great day.